So today we want to talk about accessing and using SuccessMaker. We'll start by accessing SuccessMaker, and students may or may not have a method for doing this already, depending if they've used it in class. It also may depend on if students have been using the digital Envision platform in class. So Envision is our core curriculum. It also uses the same digital platform, and that is savvisrealize.com. It will take us both to Envision and to SuccessMaker. So students may or may not have a method for this already, but generally we want to just go to savvisrealize.com. And if they haven't already, make some shortcuts. So I'm going to click on this little lock right here, and I'm going to drag it down to the taskbar. And I might also want to drag that little lock out onto my desktop so that I have a quick method of getting back to the Realize login window. So when you get to Savvis Realize, you'll be greeted with this sign in button. Let's just go ahead and click that. Next, we'll be asked to fill out this form. And we wanted to not put in our username and our password, although that might seem like the obvious thing to do. But because students are already logged into their district devices, those credentials are stored on their device. So what we want to do is head down here to the district field and type in SEAT or type in Seattle and choose Seattle School District number 1. And then choose sign in with your school district. And this will take us to the Realize platform. The first place we're going to want to go, especially if we're looking for SuccessMaker, is to the right-hand side of the window. And you'll see these tiles here. This one is for SuccessMaker. Students will usually see this one and one for their grade level Envision content. So it may say something like, grade 7 Envision Common Core 2024, something like that. But we're going to just use that tile to click to Envision. So there we go. And this will take us to our Envision dashboard. And you will probably see one or maybe more of these little tiles here. And each one of these is for a SuccessMaker course. The one you'll certainly see is called Math. That's the default course. It is an adaptive course. It'll adapt from K through 9th grade. Students may have already taken a placement test to place them in that continuum somewhere to work on the skills that they need to work on. If they haven't, your school may have just elected to start doing that placement test right now, and you could just click go, and that placement test will begin. Just so you know, it will begin at the student's assigned level, so it may be too difficult or too easy based on that student's individual skills. Down below, we see a little meter that shows how many minutes students have been working on this goal. The goal would be, SuccessMaker says, recommends 60 minutes a week. That should lead to about 1 year's growth in 1 year's time. Anyway, and you can scroll over to the side and see the record for recent sessions, what dates they were on and how many students got correct. Custom courses are not adaptive, and they don't span K through 9th grade. They're more specific. So this one is created to address sort of fractions late in the 6th grade year. Third month is early, not third quarter, sorry. So early in the 6th grade year. And this one looks like it has been created to address topic 3.6 or lesson 6 in topic 3 of grade 8. So these are created by the core content teacher or the math support person in your building, whoever has access to the students. And they are a little bit more specific. So this might be a review for content that is coming up, right? So maybe students need to review some fraction work before they start something in grade 7. Or maybe they're in grade 8 and they've just finished topic 3.6 and they need to sort of like spend a little more time with that content. So these are narrowed a little bit. These will not have that meter gauging how much time they've spent because they don't have that sort of same growth goal. They do have the recent sessions and the accuracy there. Okay, so we see this one course has 10 minutes next to it, and this one has 20 minutes. The session lengths can be set by whoever created the course. Just so you know, that's the length of time before the session expires, and the students will be shown a progress report for their work on that session. All right, I am going to choose this one right here because it looks like I haven't started it yet. And I'll show you what it looks like when students join a course for the first time. Oh, sorry. This is actually, it's lucky that it happened. So what happened is I did log in to check that it was working, and I closed the tab without logging out properly. And so now it's saying like, hey man, you left a session open. What do you want to do? And we can't really get back to it because I closed that tab. So I am just going to click Start Session. Encourage or remind kids that their work is safe, right? After every question, their work is recorded. So they're not losing any progress. But it is frustrating. So we're going to encourage them to log out properly. And I should take my own advice here. But in the meantime, I will just ignore this and click Start Session. And go to hit play. And here's that music I was talking about.
Choose a character. If you don't choose a character in 30 seconds, one will be chosen for you.
And, so that's a lot of pressure, only 30 seconds, but I'm just going to say, when in doubt, go with Soctopus. And here are our first questions, okay? So
bananas are $4.02
there is
for
a voiceover
£6. What
for
is
every
the
problem
cost
in English.
£4?
I'm going to put that on pause for a minute. It's worth noting that if it would be important to have translation, there are translation into many languages. There's not a voiceover in every language, but if there isn't a voiceover, the text will be translated into whatever language is chosen. And that can be set by student, per student by the person who set up the course, usually the core content teacher. Okay, so what happens here is, and this is a multiple choice question, it's not the most interesting thing to be looking at, but we know that it's $4.02 for 6 bananas, and they're asking us to figure out what's the right proportion. So I'm going to see, this looks right to me, and
Terrific.
I will get some affirmation.
This proportion will solve the problem.
So once they get that, they can click continue to move on to the
Bananas
next question.
Are $4.02 for £6. What is the cost of 4 pounds of bananas?
So here's something that's a little frustrating. It looks like I'm being invited to put in an answer, but I can't type anything in there. And that's because the keyboard won't work in SuccessMaker. And that has to do with being compliant with screen readers and accommodations for people who might need some assistance. So to be compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act, it has this kind of unusual input. So here I'm being invited to put my answer in. It's not one of those things that I can probably just do in my head. So it's worth mentioning at this point that like all on-screen math, we should be trying to encourage kids to work off the screen, right? So whether they're using paper and pencil, whiteboard and pens, manipulatives, we should treat the screen like it's a digital or an interactive textbook. We don't want to be writing in the textbook. We want to be doing our work someplace else. So that's worth noting. Also, it's a good time to point out that in the left-hand side, there is a menu, and in that menu, there are some tools, and one of those tools is a calculator. So sometimes it makes sense for the calculator to be turned off in certain courses or certain skills that are testing students' ability to calculate, and other places it makes sense for it to be turned on, right? So here I might want to find out the unit rate. It's like 1.5. So I might take something like those bananas and 402. And I might put in my answer of $2.68. But let's just imagine that I got it wrong. So for a second, I should have done this first. And I click done.
Use cross products to find the cost. Try again.
Oh, and they're saying I should use cross products. Okay, so I can choose to try again. In this case, I'm just going to put in the right answer. And what I think is the right answer.
Terrific. 4 pounds of bananas Cost 2.
So the point here is that, well, A, you could use a calculator in certain situations, and B, that if you make a mistake, you will be given a hint. And that hint may or may not be useful. They gave a different strategy than the one I was using. It might be confusing. Really try and create a culture in your classroom where kids can raise their hand and ask you for a question, right? If the hint isn't working for them, you want to make sure that you are available as well. So also, if I get it wrong a second time, it will show me the correct answer with a little more of a hint about how it was accomplished. And then it will just move on, right? So that's how the cycle will work. You get a question, you get it wrong, you get a hint, you get it wrong, you get a hint and a solution, and then it moves on. Okay, so that's our whirlwind tour of SuccessMaker. Oh wait, sorry, one more thing. Again, over on the left-hand side, there's a menu, and in that menu is a progress report. So that progress report is going to be really helpful for students for whom you've set a goal along the way. So it can feel like when you start SuccessMaker that it just keeps going and going, and you're not really sure when it's ever going to end. So sometimes it helps to set some goals around it. So I might have a goal for some students who are going far too fast to keep the total number of questions to around 10, but importantly focus on trying to get about 70% accuracy. Go as slow as you need to go to get your accuracy up. Or perhaps I have a student who is only answering 3 questions in a 20-minute session. I might set a goal for them to answer at least 12 questions in those 20 minutes. And how students can check on their progress along the way is by clicking on this progress button. The other way to see this progress report is to complete the 20-minute session or the 10-minute session or whatever the time limit is on that session. This will pop up at the end, but it is helpful for students to monitor it along the way because it helps them see if they're meeting their goal, right? And whether they should slow down or speed up or try and be more accurate in the next question and that sort of thing. So, all right. And then finally, we always want to make sure that we close that menu and use the close button to log out. And yes, I'm sure. All right, and that's our whirlwind tour of SuccessMaker. All right, hope that's been helpful.